Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Edgar Wright's Hot Fuzz in 2007. Here we are with another Edgar Wright review. Really been looking forward to this. And yeah, it's been probably about a month since I last done my review. Well, Shaun of the Dead, my first one. And yeah, I was meaning to do it quicker than this, but I will be now. By the end of the month, the rest of the Edgar Wright films will be reviewed. I cannot wait. And then I'll be doing a ranking, of course, as always, with a director or franchise with 5 films or more. I usually do rankings. If it's less than that, I tend not to bother. But here we are, the second in the Cornetto's trilogy. See what I think about The World's End, of course, when I get to that. But Hot Fuzz, to give a spoiler for the end, result, the end rating. This is one of the films that I'll be reviewing as part of my birthday's coming up, and I do this thing every year now where at least 2 weeks there's at least a film a day. It's on very high on my favourite films list. So yeah, this is one of them. And there'll be reviews of things that aren't on there, but you have to kind of guess maybe which ones are on there or not. And this is one of them. I'll say at the beginning of the review, of course, when it does happen. Hot Fuzz is a masterpiece. Let's just get that out of the way for me. It is one of the greatest comedies of all time, and among the greatest films of all time. Once again, of course, co-written by Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg. These two guys back together again, like with Shaun of the Dead, producing one of the finest scripts of Shaun of the Dead. And once again, I think this is even better, this script. It's stunning. Of course, if you've not seen Hot Fuzz, a lot of people, most people have. If you've not seen it, it's basically kind of a parody kind of take and reference of many action films and buddy cop films. Lethal Weapon is kind of one of them, and this is it's just kind of a modern equivalent in some ways, but also very different. Edgar Wright's, once again, his editing style that's prevalent in Shaun of the Dead and The World's End is here, and it's it's an action film, buddy cop film, and of course a thriller as well. And it's perfect in every way for me. I think just the way that Edgar Wright and Pegg, of course, kind of take apart, dissect the genres, the many genres really which overlap in this film. And once again, like Shaun of the Dead, it was a comedy, comedy horror, and really it was the best comedy horror. A film that kind of references so many things that have come before it. Film that films that come out this century, with decades and decades of just great films, masterpieces in the genre, and then they managed to top them. Because I think this is the best buddy cop film. Once again, it references so many things, but it manages to also top them. I think this is definitely the best buddy cop film, kind of, and really just cop film overall. And it's one of the best modern action films, I feel. I just think it's a stunning film, and I've seen it probably well over 50 times actually. I've seen this a lot, more than Shaun of the Dead, more than any of the Edgar Wright films. And I used to just watch it over and over, at times when I was off school and stuff, when it came out. I saw Shaun of the Dead and I love that. And then, I was around when, I heard the buzz about Hot Fuzz, and everyone was saying how good it was. And I waited for it to come on DVD, and I watched it and instantly just fell in love with it. And over the years, definitely, it's been my favourite Edgar Wright film. I won't say, now if it is my favourite Edgar Wright film. Since a couple of others have come out since then. But Hot Fuzz really it works on every level. Simon Pegg, of course, playing Nicholas Angel, and of course Nick Frost is back once again. He is amazing in this film as well. And yeah, you've got many great actors. Jim Broadbent, Timothy Dalton. One of the James Bond's actors. They're here, and of course Pierce Brosnan was in The World's End as well. It's quite nice there. And Timothy Dalton is amazing in this film. He's hilarious. Of course the character that not all is what it seems. And really, this is what the film is. I didn't expect. When I first watched it, basically to get the film that I got. It's very starts out with a very referencing and parodying many things. Of course, the main plot is basically this character of Nicholas Angel. He's so good, his job and everything, that he's too good for them basically in London, and he's kind of outshining everyone. They're jealous, and it's making them look bad and everything. And they send him to this peaceful village, Sanford in Gloucestershire, and it's got Village of the Year awards and everything like that. And but it slowly unravels that not all is what it seems, and it's actually loads and loads of crime and murders, and he kind of investigates that once he's there, and he's into the kind of village and there's a kind of a 30-minute build up. It's really, really peaceful and everything, and you suspect things appear here and there, and then things start to actually happen in terms of the murders and everything, and he soon starts to catch on with that, and he just tries to investigate. Along the way, he forms a friendship, with Nick Frost's character, and it's just it just all unfolds from there, and it becomes many different genres overlap in this film, as I'll say. But it's a great thriller, and it's a great action film, and all these things, and it's a comedy. This is really a laugh a minute at least. It's one of the most funny films I've ever seen, and that's mainly, of course, the writing. Of course, with comedies, it's so important, but as well the editing. Edgar Wright's editing style, with these films, is almost unmatched, in modern cinema. I think as Scott Pilgrim was very, very different, a lot, to the Cornetto trilogy, in terms of the editing style. Here's a spoiler: it's better than The World's End. But yeah, not to say, of course, that, as I'm saying, it's not that it's worse. It's just very different. But that's a great film as well. I can't wait to review that. But these three films have got the very, very similar editing style, and the editing once again is used for the comedy so well. The way that he can just, the speed up of everything, and just the quick shots and zooms and everything, with just everyday things, turning the key and starting the car and everything. It's just so good. It's just perfect, really. And of course, as well, the way the action is edited. Something else, really quite a crash course for Baby Driver, because the stunts in that, the car chase and everything, amped up even more. But this film, the way that the chases and all that, and the actual, towards the end especially, and all the action in this film is just so well put together. The editing is just perfect in this film. And yes, these characters, some of my favourites in a comedy ever, really. And Nick Frost is just amazing. As is, Simon Pegg. He's probably not quite as. It's not quite as at times of a dramatic performance as some of the bits in Shaun of the Dead, because of course, there's a lot of emotional moments in that. And Shaun of the Dead is just so good in the kind of the friendship, the two main characters, played by Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. It's so good, the relationship and everything, the friendship, so warm. But I think I prefer this one. The character of Danny that Nick Frost plays. He's it's just as likable in his own way. The character very, very different, kind of not all there, kind of thing. But I think the friendship that kind of grows throughout the film is one of the best things about it. It's so good. Quite touching in places as well. Especially in the middle segments. And it's just, there's so much kind of irony throughout the film. It's just so well done. The script, it's such an interesting script. The way this film has been designed, it's like a puzzle, really. Kind of like Shaun of the Dead, but I would say even more so here. There's so many things throughout the film where they appear at the beginning, and you can see, looking back, how it all fits into place. Now, of course, there's many reveals at the end, but there's other things that aren't, and when you rewatch it again and again, you pick up on so many different things. It's so layered. Honestly, like one of the most layered films in terms of its script for a comedy. It's just something else, really. All the references as well. There's references to westerns, spaghetti westerns in this film towards the end. Of course, many cop films, and just so many different films. It's all packed into this. It's just so good. When you rewatch it, you pick up on it even more. And I think the way the script is written is just stunning. All the characters, they've all got depth, and they're all just thoroughly enjoyable. The performances are so good. Paddy Considine, he is amazing in this film. One of the best characters. These two kind of cops, him and Rafe, Spall, I think it was, and They play two friends, you know, in the cops as well, and together they're kind of like an amazing double act. You've also got Olivia Colman in this film. She's amazing. You know, Bill Nighy makes an appearance at the beginning. Martin Freeman, and of course Jim Broadbent. You know, they're all just so good. The supporting cast. But what's key with this film is every character has purpose to the whole, you know, the narrative, and the way it all fits in at the end. Every single character, even the minor ones, you know, in the hotels and everything, that you kind of don't. If you've never seen it, you don't really think too much of them. You know, they're not. You don't think they've even got too much involvement in the plot. But about halfway through the film, and definitely in the final act, everything is revealed, you know, in different ways, and really they all have a purpose. They're all part of this thing I won't really have you not seen, but it's just so good, and it's not even the background characters. They've all got purpose. So it's, you know, it's an ensemble in many ways, but the standouts, of course, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, really, but you know, Timothy Dalton as well. You know, so memorable in this film. And yeah, I think the way as well Edgar Wright uses the music in this film. Of course, David Arnold would do the score. Amazing. You know, he's done some of the Bond films, Casino Royale being one of them, and you know, the score is amazing. But the way he uses the songs, Edgar Wright's, you know, famous songs. What he does is the actual lyrics in the songs, which I love it when people do this. The lyrics in the songs actually are part of what's going on in the scene. They add irony and stuff, and they actually relate. You know, when the murders start happening, the songs that are played sometimes, you know, in the car with Timothy Dalton's character, of Simon Skinner, they relate to the actual. They have a play on the actual, you know, murder that's happened, which is just genius, the way that's done. You know, and it just gives it a really good feel as well. With some of the songs, you know, absolutely stunning soundtrack. You know, you've got the Kinks, and the band the Kinks, some of their songs, and you just got so many other great ones. The song Fire as well, and it's all just used so well, you know, perfectly. This is just a masterpiece. The way that it picks, you know, subverts every genre, and kind of the way they dissect all the different genres, but roll it into a film that, you know, it's just really surpasses all the cop films that I've seen. You know, the only thing that I've seen that's better than this that is kind of cop stuff is The Wire, but that's a TV show, of course, and that's very, very different. You know, that would be an insult to call that a cop show, really. But yes, no, really, this trumps all the films, you know, that have been made about cops, really, for me. And it's just a perfect film from start to finish. The cinematography is just amazing. The editing is so good. It's just perfect. Every single shot is edited with a purpose. And I just love, you know, it's just one of the funniest films, and I just love the mixture of subtlety and, you know, parts that are, you know, would be considered over the top, but the way he controls that, Edgar Wright, you know, the tone of the film is perfect from start to finish. You know, the tone is just so consistent, and you know, it's just these characters are still so meaningful. You know, eventually, especially, and but they're all, you know, it's just the comedy basically never makes you not care about these characters, and there's always the moments where you take it seriously. You know, you're meant to take it seriously, and it all just works. You know, it never gets downplayed by the comedy. Never goes over the top. You know, with the material at times it could have been, you know, it could have gone over the top, but it didn't, because Edgar Wright, you know, is in full control of what he wants to say. And this is just one of the most enjoyable films of the century, easily. You know, I'm not going to say what I prefer out of this and Shaun of the Dead, because I give this the same rating, 100% plus, tier 2. That's how good this film is. I think it's one of the masterpieces of the century. Certainly, right up there. Maybe it is. I'm trying to think off the top of my head a better comedy really that's come out. You know, of that decade. It's hard. It's really hard. You know, in terms of a comedy, because this is just a masterpiece. Check it out if you've not seen it, and if you have, let me know your thoughts in the comments, because that would be great to see. And I cannot wait to do the rest of Edgar Wright's films. But this film is just, you know, as I've said, it's thoroughly warm. You know, it's full of heart. Um, and just the way that the comedy works in this film, the way it flows, the timing, the precision. You know, the dialogue in this film is perfect. I love all the characters. You know, they're all so good. Um, you know, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Paddy Considine, Olivia Colman, all these actors and actresses that are in this film are just so memorable. You know, and the script, of course, is just a masterclass. Really, the editing, it's just such a. I think Edgar Wright's probably maybe the top three directors in terms of their editing style. You know, of that has kind of, if you know what I mean, began in the modern era of cinema. Because you know you've got Scorsese and stuff that are better as well, but they obviously have been going many decades. But you know, Edgar Wright, in terms of, you know, modern directors that came about, you know, in the last couple of decades, I think he's up there with the top three, definitely top five in terms of, you know, their style. I think it's just perfect. It's just something else, really. It's very unique. And the way that it kind of works for the comedy, the actual editing alone is just something else. And this film, you know, from start to finish, it's just a masterpiece. Absolutely love it. One of the funniest films of all time, I would say. And you know, the final act, even I've heard people criticise the final act. I've never. Maybe it's the funniest final act to an action film. You know, well, you know, it is pretty much all out action, but it's probably the funniest final act of an action, you know, segment that I've seen. Maybe, you know, it's just so funny. You know, the supermarket scene. It's just so good, and then the actual climax as well. This film, you know, it plays with all the cliches and tropes that have been seen in these sort of films before, and it just does it so geniusly. But it's its own thing, and you actually care about all these characters more than, you know, these films. That's what I love about Edgar Wright. You know, he done that with Shaun of the Dead. Mocked all these, he kind of parodied all these things, references all these films, horror films, comedy horror, but manages to trump them, as I said, and produce the characters that are better than all of them, really, in the genre. The genres that they're kind of going against. Just genius, this film. I'm not going to say it's Edgar Wright's best. You know, wait for the ranking. But yeah, a masterpiece, flawless, just like Shaun of the Dead. So thanks for watching my review, and you know, more Edgar Wright reviews, of course, as I've said, will be up fairly soon, and yeah, I'll try and do them, you know, before the end of the month, most of them. You know, of course, I look forward to Baby Driver as well, you know, rewatching that. Yeah, because I've only seen that a couple of times. And yes, Hot Fuzz, an absolute masterpiece, as I've said. I just love how that this, you know, as well, it builds the tension. You know, you feel that, you know, in your heart. You know, the kind of feels you get with a, you know, a really intense thriller. You feel that, even though it is full on comedy at times as well. It's just the way he balances all these elements. Edgar Wright, you know, there's an atmosphere that kind of builds. At times peaceful, but also really surreal and very dark and kind of yeah, you're on the edge of your seat the whole time, but you're also, you know, it's just so funny. I just think it's so genius. Really cannot praise this film high enough. Higher than this, you know, it's just a monumental film, really, modern film, and yeah, I just think it's perfect in every way, as I've said. Just full of atmosphere, full of charm, and it's just a perfect design that is fully perfectly transmitted to the screen. Thanks for watching my review.